Welcome to ASPW Chronicles. The purpose of this series is to release videos on YouTube that have never been released before. As I was building my website for everybody to go and look at my playlists, look at my backlog, look at all of the work that I've ever done and access it very easily, I realized that there were a lot of TV shows that I'd produced that have never been on YouTube before. This is the first one. You've seen, probably, if you're a close watcher of the channel, part one, where Paul Marsh and I travel through the Kalahari looking for magic, but outside of the national parks, the crowded and always expensive national parks. This is part two, where I revisited Botswana the following year with Kate and discovered more amazing places in Botswana. I hope you enjoy it. I'm in Botswana, looking for tranquility and Kalahari magic outside of the national parks. I've proved without doubt that it is possible to avoid the expense and often crowded game reserves. This is part two of my adventure, and I'm trying to reach a place that I've failed to reach on two previous attempts. I'm St Pierre White. Join me as I share my passion for building four-wheel drive trucks and then travelling to the remotest parts of the world. Not last year, but the previous year and the year before that, I was here trying to get to a place called South Island, and in both times I failed. First one, I was travelling completely on my own. I'd finished a solo trip right through the Kalahari, and this was my final point, and didn't make it. There was too much mud. My intention is to visit an island that is my favourite place in the area. South Island is a group of 1,000-year-old baobabs sitting in yellow grass on a rock island on the world's largest salt pan. But I just cannot find the track. I'm not sure what I'm going to do actually, because well, firstly, to find the track that leads to South Island is going to be bad enough, but now with the restrictions of water on the pans, I'm going to be careful though. Nah, not going to be foolish, particularly with the water around. It means that there was a lot of rain in the winter time, which is very unusual. Really wanted to take you there. I wanted to take me there too, but second time again. This time I'd finished a long trek all following the Okavango River. And ended here again and tried to get to South Island. Too much mud, didn't make it. So here I am again, third time lucky. I'm now about to turn 2056. I'm travelling with my good friend Paul Marsh. He's a bit of a legend when it comes to overland exploration. What I do now is identify the destination. When I went onto Google Earth and I drew a line, and I got the point on the road that is as closest to the South Island, and we've stopped at that point. I think it's that clump over there. So we should take a bearing. We don't have a compass with us. How are we going to take a bearing on it? I'm not convinced that that's the island.
See, there's two smudges. There's that big tree there which we could take a bearing on. If we got to that, we'd probably be very close to where it is.
Now, I don't think what I'd pointed out South Island is South Island. I'm seeing a fence line which is suggesting to me that we've actually come too far this way. It's the only thing I can suggest. The ground seems to be quite hard, but you never know, it could soften up, you know, all of a sudden for no apparent reason. This is wrong, it feels wrong. That feels right. But I'm guessing, I don't know for sure. Okay, now, which is the right tree now, am I?
It's that tree there.
It is that tree there, isn't it?
The grass is going to give us good traction.
It'll stop us sinking in,
Yeah.
even if it's soft.
Straight,
we
so
won't
go
easily. We won't go right
So I
down.
think the important thing is to be mindful of where you're heading, and you can always return on the track. Not so easy in this thing. I think in the far distance over there,
Can't see it.
the wind's going all along.
We're so close. It's quite a big area of open pan, but it actually looks quite.
Certain stretches the worrying.
Cost. I'm going to go straight past this bit.
Yeah, speed up.
Oh, we can finally see it. Definitely it over there. The ground is starting to become quite soft. You can feel it on the tires. Here are our tracks here. It's very dry, which is quite good. Almost 2 hours to get to this point. I actually misjudged where it was, but we have definitely found it. How's that?
Oh man.
Isn't that astonishing? And those are the 3 trees that I photographed. And we are going to go and camp next
Oh, we
to
can
those
camp
trees.
anywhere we want. I think we should camp next to those trees.
Wow, look at that.
Oh, good shot,
Look
good
at
shot.
that. Isn't that
Oh, that's
absolutely
beautiful.
extraordinary place? See this? These markings? This is why we had to get special permission to come here. This is why they're changing all the campsite locations on Kubu. Because of morons. Idiots. I mean, who would do this? Of something with such pure natural beauty? I just don't get it. It's beyond comprehension why somebody would do something like that. In my many years of producing adventure travel shows, traveled to some astonishingly beautiful places all over the subcontinent of Africa. None is as beautiful as this. For me, It doesn't get better. It can't get better. Tell me something about the trip. Good trip?
It's
You've got
been
12 seconds.
This has been the most amazing trip. To be in a place like this is the pinnacle of all expeditions. This is magic, this place.
That's why we do it.
This place takes your soul and it sets it free, and it gives you space to think.
It is exactly 1 year later, back in my beloved Makgadikgadi salt pans, on an expedition to find magic in Botswana outside of the national parks and very expensive game reserves. But this time not travelling with Paul Marsh, but with my daughter Kate.
Hi.
Who's brought me a nachi. Yeah, oh, I love that. So what you found?
Okay, I actually just wanted to ask, because there are a lot of animal tracks down there. I actually just brought this back. I want to ask if this is a springbok. It's quite messed up now. It was kind of like a heart shape. Is it a springbok?
It could be. It does look like small antelope. That would be its bit like that, wouldn't it? Definitely could be small antelope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is this a cow?
This is a cow. That's a cow.
Oh, that's boring. There were horses as well. They were probably actually donkeys though, if they were.
Kubu Island is most definitely worth a day's visit. On the island is a long line of rocks. It's obviously a rock wall. Nobody really knows why the wall was built. It wasn't built for defense because it's open 2/3 of its circle that it makes around the top half of the island. It is believed that it was demarcating a holy site. Specifically what? Nobody knows. Have you ever thought what happens when a giant baobab dies?
Spongy. Wow. It looks like a spider weaved it.
Well, this is the Makgadikgadi Adventure Camp. It's half an hour's drive from Kubu and is the only really established camp in the area, apart from Jack's camp, of course, that charges $1 million a night. And this is interesting in that the tents around me are inexpensive, so if you're sick and tired of camping and you want an inexpensive bed for the night, and when I say inexpensive, really reasonable. But I'm not going to stay here. It's not my kind of thing. I like to camp out in the middle of nowhere. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a shower. They offer this 15 puller each. You go out, solar heated water, have a shower to freshen up. It's absolutely perfect because I don't want to camp here. I don't want to stay here. But I love the ease of not having to set up my shower around my camp. Just come here and freshen up, have a quick shower, and be on my way. Apart from the astonishing sunsets that are in Makgadikgadi, the moon plays a big part too. If you come to the Makgadikgadi, do yourself a favour. Walk out into the middle of the pan. It's absolutely safe. There's nothing that can harm you here. But don't get lost. The experience of the utter isolation on these pans at night with the moon is extraordinary. And I'm going to take Kate out for a treat once it gets dark.
Yes!
Okay, now what we should do, we should get a bearing on the star or something, because we can see the light of our camp in the distance.
Yeah.
So what's the bearing?
If you step in one of the animal footprints, you sink like hectically. Phew, there's a lot of mud under here. Really, really spongy, and it's got a little crunch to it as well. Looks like salt. Is it salt? Because it's, well, salt pans.
It is salt, yes.
It is salt, yeah, salt pans. That makes sense. It's pretty terrifying, you know. If the light went out in the car, that'd be quite scary. You know, feel pretty oblivious right here.
Well, good morning. Some people think I'm crazy because I love this place, because there's nothing here, but that's what I love about it. I think it's just because there is nothing here and no people. Today we're off north towards Kasane and the Chobe National Park. On the way, there's an area called Pandamatenga, and it's well known for lots and lots of animals, although it's not in the game reserve or national park. And we're going to camp wild tonight on a road to the east of the main road. Never been there before, new to me too, but it's also, so it's a bit of an experiment to see what nice places we can find to camp there. I imagine it's going to be Mapani Forest. But that's where we walked last night from the car there, and we walked over to the grass island there, about half a kilometre. But on the way, Kate is going to have her very first driving lesson. Good place to do it here. There's nothing to hit. In 1975, my father took me to Botswana and gave me the opportunity of learning how to drive a car. It's the first time I'd ever actually sat in the driver's seat of a vehicle anywhere. It was in the Marimi Game Reserve in Botswana. And I now celebrate that event by getting my daughter Kate. This is her very first driver lesson. Let me explain to you very briefly what you need to know.
Yeah.
Okay, there's an engine spinning. There's a gearbox stationary at the moment because we're not moving.
Yeah.
So now there's a spinning thing and there's a stationary thing. And in between it is a clutch. As I explained, clutch all the way in, put it in gear, little bit of power, and ease off the clutch.
Okay, a little bit of power. Okay, first,
and
yeah.
Nice and gently, off you go, do a big circle
Ease
back.
off the brake. Okay.
Okay,
Gently.
go. Well, there she is, her first solo, after precisely 11 minutes. That's great.
How was I?
Well, I'd say that's pretty good. What do you reckon?
That was good! Better than my sister's.
I remember years and years ago, went on a trip to the United States, and Kate, how old would you have been in 2005 when you drove the boat? About 8 years old, and she drove a canal boat and learnt by far the quickest out of everybody, including Gwyn, her mother, how to steer the boat. Likewise, when I taught you how to fly, you learnt remarkably quickly. The late, great Glendell, you flew in his little Piper Cub, the little yellow Piper Cub, and he climbed out and he said, I am absolutely astonished at how well she could fly. And, you know, and she's done most of the driving today. She's handling it very, very well. Amazed, absolutely amazed. You're a natch. If you are looking for campsite in the Makgadikgadi or close to the Makgadikgadi where you will have hot water, there are several on the Maun Francistown Nata Road, and this is one of them. And unlike almost every other campsite in Botswana in high season, this one, empty. This is not a sanctuary, not a bird sanctuary, and from here you can get a fantastic view of the pan and hopefully birds. At this time of year, July, not too many birds, but I've been told there's still water in the pans, which means there's still birds on it. I first came to the Makgadikgadi in 1972, again in 1974. Then in 1986, 87, then I'm not sure, then for the last 6 years I've come every year but one. And I have never seen it like this. Most significantly, in 2010 I did a documentary, it was a whole series, about the waters of the Okavango. I followed it from its source right to its end. And there was the final frame and I was standing on an absolutely dry pan and I said, this is where the waters of the Okavango in extreme floods can end up. Look at it! It is astonishing. I am surrounded by water, and this is the northern tip of Sawa Pan. Absolutely extraordinary. I'll tell you what, we'll set it up properly. That's why I love my job so much. The reward of photographing this. This is it. We've taken a minor road off the Nata Kasani main road. We've taken a detour. It actually runs parallel to the main road to try and get away from people and traffic. And we've got to set up a camp for the night. And we found this, about the right time to camp, but now I've got a problem. Obviously elephants come here to drink. So where do we pitch our tent? Now it would be stupid to pitch it here, because this is obviously where the elephant like to come, and we would get in their way and they wouldn't be happy with that. So if we're going to camp, we have to find somewhere where we want to see the elephant if they come, but we don't want to get in their way, because getting in their way we could just get in ourselves into a whole heap of trouble.
They've just got a round footprint, or is it like that, or is it round?
But these are old, so you're not getting a good
Yeah.
you know,
Distinction of what they look like.
yeah. This is where we're going to camp. And the reason why I've chosen this area, the water there, we'll have a beautiful sunset over the water, which will be nice for pictures. And I have an escape route behind the vehicle. I have an escape route backwards, so I can reverse around there. Okay, there's enough space for the animals, plenty of space between our camping spot and the water. Not a hell of a lot, but there is enough for them to pass freely. And there are some footprints here, but these aren't very fresh. And we have an escape route forward as well. So I think this is a magnificent camping spot. I'm in Botswana. Yes, this is Botswana. High rainfall months ago in Angola means that the largest salt pan in the world is a huge expanse of water. I'm here looking for magic outside of the expensive and often crowded national parks. It's day 10, and early morning. We're heading for the Chobe National Park near Kasani. I'm travelling this, the final leg of my adventure, with my daughter Kate. Time for a quick shop on the high street for some souvenirs, but Kasani is better known for something else altogether. This is the close to the border crossing at Kasangula, Kasangula is the place in northeastern Botswana where Namibia, Botswana, Zambia and Zimbabwe meet. There are hundreds, maybe 1,000 trucks waiting to cross the border. And the reason why there are so many is because in Zimbabwe the corruption is so bad with the truck drivers. There are so many roadblocks that it's too expensive for the trucking companies to send freight through Zimbabwe, so they all come here. Even waiting the 10 days it sometimes takes for a truck to clear at this border post because it is so congested, it's still worth it in terms of cost, money, time, because the corruption in Zimbabwe is so bad. Here they are, just lined up for what must be 5 kilometers. I've been touring using my own Land Cruiser 78 Troopy that I've modified for camping. In the second half of the show, I'll be sharing some of the secrets that has made this the close to perfect overland touring truck.
I wish that he had come out from behind the tree.
So we are now in the Chobe National Park. We have tried to do what the majority of visitors to Botswana do, and that is try and get into the national park. It's July. We didn't book ahead of time, and there was no space for us. So we've taken a day ticket, and we've asked them to look out for a cancellation. July being the high season, particularly for South African travellers, we must have passed 50, 60 four-wheel drives, most pulling trailers with South African registrations. So to see animals, you do actually have to go to the major national parks. When I'm saying animals, I'm talking about in high concentration and almost guaranteed of some great sightings, like these hippo right in front of us right now. "34 years ago, I came to Serendella. This is now a picnic spot. It used to be the main camping site in the northern Chobe National Park. I was grateful for my father for his adventurous spirit and the fact that he purchased a four-wheel drive vehicle, and it enabled us to come to places like this. So on the banks of the Chobe River, when I first came here, I was the same age as Kate, 16, maybe a little younger, not much. And I've since been to the Chobe National Park, I don't remember how many times, but it was the legacy of my father's adventurous spirit that brought me back here and changed my life. So, wherever you are, Dad, here's to you.
Oh yeah, because you don't get these in England.
No, you don't. Well, as you may have guessed, not Chobe National Park. In fact, Kasani learnt two things. Firstly, and this is, I did suspect this, that bookings in the national parks will be very difficult during high season. The camping sites, even in the very remote areas, are booked up well in advance. So if you're driving a kind of wild camping experience with no fixed dates, it's unlikely that you'll get into any of the national parks in high season. Even worse, we learnt last night that we took a day visit into Chobe, had magnificent animal sightings, absolutely fantastic. Came into Kasani to find a campsite, no campsites available, none, unbelievably. So we had to sit out and wait for a cancellation, and eventually these people who were supposed to come last night didn't pitch up, so we pitched our tent here. So it was an uncomfortable night, not knowing if we were going to be thrown out into the street. Anyway, today we're going back in to see if there are any cancellations at Savuti or northern Chobe. If not, another day visit it'll be. What I love the most about Botswana's parks is that it is permitted to get out of one's vehicle. So it's not like a zoo where the animals are free and the visitors are in their cages. But while it is permitted, it would be foolish to just walk about without paying attention to what's around you. And click.
This
is, after all, a wildlife reserve.
My impressions
of the Chobe.
Absolutely amazing. There's nothing that can even come close to this. It's amazing.
So what we've decided to do is to park off, sit and wait for the animals to come to us. On the banks of the Chobe, approaching sunset, that shouldn't take long. And it didn't. This must surely be the largest buffalo herd I've ever seen. But in the parks, one cannot escape the crowds. That's a given. But some advice here. Don't follow the other South Africans when looking for game. Follow the game viewing vehicles from the local lodges. Local knowledge, you see. Something in the water has them spooked. They've created a protective net around the young ones in the middle. Now we've just seen the aftermath of a kill. 2 lions, can you see more?
3.
3 lions.
And he just rolled over.
All the marabou storks and vultures waiting to take their turn, and 101 tourists enjoying the spectacle. So as a conclusion, as we contemplate a day's driving around the Kama Rhino Sanctuary, our final destination in our excursion to Botswana, to discover if magic can be found in the Kalahari outside of the crowded and expensive game reserves. The answer, of course, is absolutely, without question. But if big game is your thing, the answer is, well, not really. You're going to have to go to Marimi, Chobe, places like that, where you will encounter animals galore, fantastic sights, really spectacular in every way, but also lots of other people, lots of other campers, full campsites, sometimes very noisy campsites. But if you want solitude in the Kalahari, there's really, in fact, don't go to the major game reserves, stay out of the game reserves. There are plenty of other places to enjoy its wonder. Rhinos are not found in any of the other game reserves and national parks in Botswana, so they've established this, the Kama Rhino Sanctuary, where they will be safe from poachers. We're out early morning, can't see any rhinos, but since Kate has never seen one before, we're going to go and look for one now. There it is, there's a rhino, behind the bush. It's a white rhino, one of them. Ah, there's another one.